Hello, my wonderful friends. How are we all doing? I really hope you're doing good. That would be just great. Anyway, it's time for a story, and this one's a little different, a little special. To me, anyway. It's a Legbeard story, and we don't usually get a lot of those, so I'm actually kinda happy we got one. So this is from Reddit user Despite the Darkness. My Legbeard ExFriend, a lesson in learning to walk away. Oh, this one we might learn something from, kids. Let's get into it. Hello, Moonhorse. Hello. Long-time listener and first-time poster. Well, welcome. I've been contemplating whether to share my experience with you in the Moonherd for a long time, but always held back because, well, I was not entirely sure that my encounter counted as a Legbeard. However, after listening to several of your more recent videos, I have decided to regale you with the sordid tale of a friendship that went on far, far too long. Oh boy. This might end up being in two parts, because quite frankly, this woman did a lot over the decade or so that I knew her. But I'll try to pick out only the most delectable Legbeardy snippets, I assure you. The cast is as follows. Myself, the narrator of this tale. I'll use the nickname Salt, which I used to go by in those years. Luna, a mutual friend of myself and the Legbeard. She was the third piece in our Triforce, and still a very good friend of mine. Nicknamed Luna, she really likes Sailor Moon. That's cool. And Ranger, the star of our show. I call her Ranger because she had an on and off obsession with Power Rangers. The new Power Rangers video will be ready when I say it's ready. I'm sorry, you can't say Power Rangers without me thinking of Linkara. As a disclaimer, I have talked to Luna about telling you our experiences and have her permission. Details have been omitted or slightly altered in order to protect us both. Now with that out of the way, let us move on to the story itself. I met Ranger back in my first year of high school, right around the same time I met Luna. She was a few years older than both of us, but she seemed really nice, and would always drop by the area that Luna and I sat during lunch to hang out with us. I was a goth back in high school, and going through a lot of personal struggles with mental illness that I won't get into just yet. Holy shit, I relate to that more than you could possibly know. Teenage Moonhorse was also kind of a punk goth. There are no pictures of this, do not ask. I wasn't very popular back then, and the fact that I had attracted two friends early on was kind of a shock to me. I think that's why I bonded to the both of them like cement right away. I can't remember too much about the first years of our friendship, but I do know that Ranger was pleasant back then. I don't know if that was rose-colored glasses fogging memory, or if she simply evolved into the beard she would become. Either way, things were pretty smooth at first. We bonded over our shared love of video games, anime, horror movies, and other nerdy topics. I feel that. Every year we made a point to attend a nearby anime convention where we'd dress up and act like your typical weebs. Forgive me, dear listeners, some of you are not aware of this, but if you've listened to the streams, you know this one. Everybody likes it when I do this whenever somebody says the word, so fucking weebs! Sorry. It wasn't really until Luna and I reached our senior year that things really started to change. Now, Ranger was a couple years older than us, so by the time Luna and I were doing the usual teenage senior rituals of preparing for graduation, her moment had already long passed. When the ceremony started creeping closer, I noticed Ranger began making these really sour comments around us. She would talk about how we're both going to hit a wall when we walked the stage, and when Luna asked her what she meant, she said, "You're gonna get on stage and realize that your life is over after this day." That is incredibly sad. Oh my god. If I had to imagine that the greatest years of my life were in fact in high school, I would fucking die. These are the greatest years of my life. Hands down. Because of you guys. It's at this point that a key figure in Ranger's personality showed itself. You see, Ranger had what I can best describe as a victim complex. Oh boy. Nobody else had it worse than her. If you suggested that you had a rough day or you were struggling, you were bound to be one-upped. Oh my god, I know people like that. And of course, there was her favorite phrase. Well, at least you don't have my life. Oh god. which she would use at every opportunity. One of us had a bad day? Well, Ranger would cut us off mid-explanation to proclaim that her whole week was so much worse. Did something good happen to you? Well, Ranger would swoop in and make sure to sour the mood by reminding us that, by the way, my life still sucks. Now, I say it jokingly to Luna, but there were times where I genuinely believed that Ranger thought she was some sort of tragic anime archetype. Oh boy. The misunderstood and befallen victim who was always being kicked around by the cruel world around her. Nothing was ever her fault, and she never apologized. Not for a single thing. In the entire decade that I knew Ranger, I don't think sorry ever came out of her mouth once. Honestly, because she was that talented at twisting people around and making herself into the victim. Classy. This habit eventually became one of the reasons our friendship ended, but I'll save that for later. I must emphasize this part. Ranger had no tact about wherever she decided to pull these stunts. It came up at inappropriate times and during conversations where Luna or I really wanted her to listen. No matter the situation, Ranger could not hold her tongue. A part of me speculates that she translated us mentioning our struggles into like a challenge, but that's enough for now. Back to this actual story. You see, Ranger didn't want to help us with graduation at all. At times seemed to get underfoot while Luna and I were finishing our finals. I distinctly recall one incident where I needed to get an important essay written up. I told Luna and Ranger under no circumstances were they to interrupt me that weekend because I needed to completely focus on this. Luna understood completely. Ranger waited till around lunchtime before she proceeded to spam me with messages over MSN Messenger. Yes, I'm that old. Shut up, I'm older. I remember ICQ and Yahoo Messenger. Okay? Yeah, you damn kids and your internet. Until I snapped at her that I was busy. She then pouted, insisting that she just forgot, and spent the rest of the day logged off on all my social media so she would leave me the fuck alone. Ranger never did apologize for that. Instead, she just kept up her story of having innocently forgot, waving off my reminder that I had warned her and Luna multiple times, both in person and over Messenger. I was unaware at the time, but already Luna had felt the brunt of some of Ranger's behavior. While I was there for a lot of it, Ranger was able to often manipulate the situation by telling me a different story later on, or by denying accusations when they came up. I, unfortunately, was gullible enough to believe her. I believe that's called gaslighting. But I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Since it would take way too long to go into every single instance, I'll just compile the highlights of some of her actions over the year and a half before Luna and I graduated. Among some of the other things she did are... 1. Broke a figure of Luna's by snapping its arm off, then lied and said she gently touched it and it just fell off on its own. Said figure was a limited edition and Luna had to order it online to get it. Later, Ranger suggested that she just buy another, as she assumed that Luna had the cash to simply buy another. Real nice. 2. Stole a controller Luna had loaned to her. She would tell me how she left it on Luna's porch after she was done with it, but now we suspect she just kept it. 3. Claimed to find not one, but 2 separate iPods outside our old high school that she naturally kept for herself. I later found out that she stole my brother's iPod in reality, something that got me on his bad side for months afterwards. 4. Got banned from a dollar store in our mall under the claim that a girl who disliked her had framed her by sticking cosmetics into her purse. Yeah, she was caught shoplifting and came up with that lie to cover her ass. Wow. 5. Showed up at a con where we all agreed to chip in money for our host with nothing more than a few dollars for food. A note, Luna had warned her months beforehand that she needed to have the cash up front as the host was doing us a huge favor by letting us stay all weekend, no charge. And 6, claimed that she found a Ouija board at a bus stop and that it cursed her when she touched it. I wish I was making this up, and I will 100% go into detail about this one in a later post if you guys want. I absolutely want to hear that, mainly because Ouija boards aren't fucking magic. I want to know what level of insanity we're talking about. I could go on, but we would sadly be here all day if I did. The main point is that Ranger was often prone to taking advantage of the people around her, and that she often came up with wild and ridiculous lies. After graduating from high school, Ranger made very little attempt to pursue college or get a job. She'd often regale Luna and I with her plans to get a job and move out eventually, and we even at one time made plans for all of us to move into a place together. But that all fell flat, because among Ranger's many flaws was her total apathy and laziness. Ranger didn't clean up after herself. Warning for the easily squeamish, this gets kinda gross. Oh boy, I'll steal my resolve. So Ranger's favorite snack was sunflower seeds. I already know where this is going and I don't like it. And her preferred drink was Coke. For as long as I knew her, Ranger always had one of these things on her at all times. Her room, as a result, was often a wasteland of empty Coke bottles and dirty laundry. When you walked across her floor, you were often treated to the crunch of sunflower seed shells because rather than spitting them into a cup like a normal human being, she would just spit them out onto the floor. Oh! Lovely! I'm telling you, when you can feel the carpet crunching beneath you as you walk, it does something to you. Yes, it does. But that wasn't the end of her filth. Oh no! She also piled clothes everywhere, never put sheets on her bed. In almost the 12 years that I knew her, I don't think I ever saw Ranger brush her teeth once. Don't like that. She wasn't a smelly person outside of her home, but visiting her was an absolute nightmare because I could never feel at ease. It grossed me out that she saw nothing wrong with her behavior and couldn't be bothered to tidy even if she knew guests were coming. But what's worse than the state of her room were her bad habits, including her absolute refusal to have a normal sleep schedule. This girl slept in later than any other person I've known. Because she didn't have a job or anywhere to go in an average day, Ranger never felt obligated to stick to a routine. As a result, her sleeping habits were all over the place after graduating. She often didn't get up until past 1 p.m. and usually stayed up well past 4 a.m. Did I mention that she never set an alarm? Or that she maintained this habit even when she made plans or was due at an event? Because boy, I can't tell you how many times Ranger either showed up late, even if I told her I needed her to wake up at a decent fucking time, or slept in until Luna and I had to go over to her house and wake her up. To add to this obnoxious habit, Ranger often called us names when we woke her up. I distinctly recall being called a, quote, fucking bitch after trying to get her up during one of our cons so we didn't miss half the goddamn day. Ranger, of course, never apologized for this and excused it as something she did subconsciously whenever someone woke her up. Ranger was always very stubborn about what job she'd even apply for. The entire time I knew her, I don't think she ever had a proper job. Besides a bit of money here and there from babysitting or from birthday gifts, Ranger remained constantly unemployed. She was, however, given many opportunities to find work. Luna and I once gathered a bunch of job listings because we were sick of her whining about being broke all the time. And what did she do? Cry that every one of them wasn't good enough. They were all too hard. She couldn't lift heavy things, she claimed. They were all too stressful. Her resume was full of spelling mistakes and bare bones because she hadn't been employed in years. As a favor, I took her file, rewrote everything in my spare time in an attempt to make her resume more appealing looking. I won't sit there and claim that I was the best at writing, but compared to what she had been using, I like to think it was a big step up. So how did Ranger thank me? By tossing the copies I made out and refusing it because she, quote, didn't like how it looked. Wow. I was gobsmacked. She kept using her old resume instead. Around this time, my partner and I were preparing to move to another city, and my time spent with Ranger and Luna would be limited for a couple of years. When I eventually returned, it only got worse. I think I'll stop here because otherwise I might go too long, but if anyone wants me to keep going, I have many more things to say about Ranger and her antics, including the absolute shit show that was our friendship's downfall. Until then, I hope everyone enjoyed reading this. Okay, first off, more please. Yes, I'm very interested to see where this goes. But let's go over some of this stuff. There's a lot. Oh, wow. You know the fucked up thing is I'm pretty sure I knew people like this. I knew a lot of like weird geeky people when I was in high school and, in my early 20s and into my mid-20s, let's be honest. But yeah, this is not an uncommon thing. Everybody who's ever been in any of these scenes where it's like, the games, anime, any of that kind of stuff, knows at least one person like this. Which I think is the main reason that these stories have started to take off huge on the internet, is because we all know that person. And, it's finally time to just spill that tea, ain't it? So, this one, on the other hand, is kind of interesting, because there's so much time spent, and there's so much going on. Now, I can do my armchair psychologist thing and say that, the messy room, the lack of a sleep schedule, the attention-seeking behavior, this is obviously some kind of mental illness. That's pretty obvious, yes. But I will say, since we just, got past the part with the resume, I can safely say that I'm sure whatever you did there, salt despite the darkness, however you want to go with there, I'm sure what you did was actually very nice, and I'm sure it was very professional and understanding because you were doing your best to help a friend. And I'm fairly certain that the reason she threw it out was something that a lot of us like to call sabotage. Not something you did, something she did. She didn't actually want to get a job, which is why all of them weren't any good, and why the resume that would actually help her get said job was also not good enough, quote unquote. This has nothing to do with you. This is someone who really wants to maintain this lifestyle. A lot of times, that's just a thing. That's like what some people are really into. It can be a part of mental illness, but some people specifically reject any kind of help in ways like that in order to continue their own habits. They like this life. They like the things they're doing. Even if the things they're doing are, granted, pretty fucking awful. This just constant gaslighting and this constant, let me tell you about how everything, mine is different, mine's worse, mine's this, it's the center of attention. She just really wants people to pay attention to her, but only on her terms. So it's not like, hey, if you got a job and worked, you could actually do something. No, we can't do that. That's not on my terms. And that's a lot of what it is. It's a lot of self-centeredness, so you're not wrong about that. She's incredibly selfish. That's a thing. That is 100% a thing. But yeah, that's what it feels like to me, and I honestly would love to hear more stories. You guys know me. I love a trash fire, and this is shaping up to be quite an interesting one. Because it sounds like you knew this person about as long as I knew some of the Neckbeards I knew. I'm talking like a long time. And I like when stories go into this level of detail, when things are happening like this, because this is not a thing that, for example, on other Neckbeard stories from other subreddits that I've seen, it's usually like someone briefly runs into someone like that, or maybe they know them because of a friend and they've only seen them once or twice, or, and let's be honest, on some of these subreddits cases, it's a fucking story, it's not even real, which is, if you're going to write fan fiction, at least mark it down. Which is also something I approve of. You can send me Neckbeard fan fiction. I will read it. But this sounds more like you had to deal with this person for this long, and I know exactly how that is. You don't have a lot of friends, so you're kind of stuck with the people who are around you. You want to fit in, so anybody who likes you, you kind of gravitate towards. And believe me, that was 100% me. Yeah, no, I think you and I might have been the same person in a different timeline. What's it like on the other side? Are there nice things there? Because it's fucking freezing here. So, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I would love to hear more. So, thank you for sending in your story. And thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It's a thing YouTube does. I don't know how it works, but I know that they like when you do that. It apparently presses the good button on the YouTube machine. I don't know where the buttons go, but they're always there. And if you'd like to support this show more specifically, you can support this show. I said chote. That's not a word. If you'd like to support this show more specifically, You can do that by going to my Ko-Fi and donating to whatever insane thing I've decided to put on there, because that's just a thing I do. Or check out the merch store. I have a lot of really weird designs in there, and I think you guys would like it. You can get all the designs on literally everything. If you want a Moonhorse hoodie, you can get that. If you want a Moonhorse shower curtain, that is also an option. Threadless probably shouldn't give me nearly as many options as they did, but I swear I'm going to use all of them because I think it's hilarious. And above everything else, thank you all so very much for being here. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.